Well, that was fun. Let's go to the next article.
Okay, the next article, or actually set of articles I wanted to talk about, is really about something that happens all too often. And that's where people leave data around for others to discover. Last time we were talking about data that got deleted. In this case, it's data that probably should have been deleted or maybe at least protected. So,
Protecting data. Yeah, that's something we should think about. How often does it really happen?
okay.
Okay, after that laughter moment, welcome back.
As we continue to figure out how we're going to talk about our articles without breaking each other up. Okay. Reality is here. I've got 3 articles that we're going to talk about. They're really about one incident, well, kind of 1.5 actually, that happened. The 2 primary articles, one is by Security Discovery and the other by TechCrunch, is where an organization loaded a bunch of data out to an environment and did what most folks kind of expect folks to do. What would that be?
To look at it.
So yeah, they threw it out there to be analyzed, but didn't actually protect it. So have you ever done that at your house? Let's think about this. You decide to put something in storage.
Okay.
Would you ever not put a lock on it?
Depending on where you live.
Okay, good point.
If you live out in the boondocks, who needs a key? If you live in the city, who needs 4 keys?
So that's kind of what happens on the internet, is that you end up setting up storage servers out there, and because you're used to thinking that you live in a safe environment on the internet, are there any safe environments on the internet?
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Sure there is.
Should you lock your data up comes into play. So in this case, a company, it was actually a series of financial institutions, and they sent their data to be recorded and analyzed. And they provided it to a third party to do this. Now when you send your data to a third party, you think what things?
That they will take care of it.
This is an interesting thought. Do we think that's actually going to happen?
Well, they say they do.
They might.
They're supposed to.
They're supposed to. And they're supposed to take care of it. Well, actually, technically not, unless they put it in their service agreement.
A third-party risk? Yeah, that's...
Yeah. So in this case, it wasn't the third party. It was the fourth party.
The janitor?
Well, that leads down a whole nother rabbit trail with how do you know that the people who are cleaning your place aren't stealing your data? Well, by the way, you don't. But that would be an example of a fourth party risk.
But so you're suggesting that the third party put your data out to another party?
Yeah, what actually happened here is the financial institutions provided it to a party,
Okay.
who then sent it to somebody else to be stored. Now, if you're going to send your data around for people to be passed around, what's the easiest way to do that in this day and age?
Email.
Okay, what else? But it's too big for email. We're talking gigs of data.
Google Storage.
There we go. Dropbox, Google Storage, AWS. So, and in this case, you're right. Those are the kinds of places they go. But in this case, it was Elasticsearch database, which is actually a cloud-based search provider. You can dump your data in to be analyzed. So they're wandering across the internet looking for unsecured files.
So what did they find?
Well, in this case, it was really bad news. What they found were a bunch of images of documents that were for financial records, mortgage records, those kinds of things. And while there wasn't a single document that was loaded, they could see all sorts of bits and pieces. So enough that they could put together pictures, and it was all private information.
So they found a bunch of pieces and put them together.
So, as Stephen commented off screen, this is kind of a form of archaeology. You can actually put this together, bits and pieces, to form a whole. There's an actual technical term for this. I will remember this for the next video, but I have forgotten.
It's like that TV show where the guy takes the shredded paper and glues it all together.
Yeah, actually, it's not quite that simple, but yes, essentially, it's like your kids with a jigsaw puzzle. Sometimes there's enough information on a single puzzle piece that it has value. Sometimes if you just piece them together, you're going to have a lot of value. The story of the blind man and the elephant is, and the way I've heard the story is there are a series of blind men. They approach an elephant, One touches the tail, one touches the flank, one touches the nose, one touches the wing. And each of them think the animal is different because they've touched a different part of it. Touch the tail, you think it's a snake. Or touch the back, it's a big wall. You touch the ear or something, it could be something else. I've forgotten how the story goes.
Trees are the legs like a trunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. So the legs are like the tree trunk of a tree. All of those things are there, and because they have a different perspective of what they're doing.
Okay.
So it's kind of the opposite of here. You piece all those things together, and you have an elephant. In this case, in some cases, the data has value individually. In some cases, it doesn't. But you can actually, if you're going through tons and tons of data, how much information do you actually have to have for it to be valuable?
So how much data do you need for something to be valuable?
You actually don't need very much. If you think about it, if you have a single credit card number or tied with a expiration number and the other card, you can commit a fair amount of fraud with just one card. You put together a handful of cards, you can pull together a lot of money. If you have a single account number with just a limited amount of data, a bank will accept and perform transactions for you. So the real key is it's not how much, but how does that information relate? So if you have a trove of data, a little bit of searching gives a lot of value. So in this case, these folks were doing the work. They did the analysis, they stored the data. I am just making this up, spitballing as it were, but let's say they just needed to exchange the data, so they put it out into an Elasticsearch search engine. So what's the thing that you want to do
Secure
when
it.
you store it?
Secure it.
No, you want people to use it. You didn't put it out there if you didn't want somebody to use it.
Okay.
So as the individual person, it's not a security guy.
Okay, what's the goal though?
You're doing the analysis
Okay, but why are you bringing other people to use it? What's the goal of that?
because you're running reports on it.
Okay.
So
you're gonna get reports, you said?
Yeah, because in this case, they've stored the data out there to be able to be analyzed. The whole reason for Elasticsearch and some of these other tool sets is for you to run research tools on it. You throw it out there, you let other people that you expect to use it to do that work. So I've decided that I'm going to share these files with the three of us.
Okay.
Okay, so this is crowdsourcing. Okay.
No, this isn't crowdsourcing. This is, that would be a problem. This is all sensitive data. We don't want to crowdsource sensitive data. That's kind of what they did here by accident. But what they did was, I'm going to store it out there, and I'm going to tell John and Sally, you can get it at this site. Here's the link to get to it. And so they do it. So the person that's done this is a business user. It's not a security professional. They're just throwing it out there for people to use. This is classic cloud computing.
Sure.
I'm just putting it out there to be used. So why would I be concerned if somebody else is going to get to it? Because they don't know it's there. I've told Sally and Bob that it's there, so they can use it.
So it's not necessarily who you're giving access to, but who may possibly have access to.
Right. Because the average user doesn't think about that. They just store it out there, and they said, "Yeah, I've created a Dropbox account, or I've created something else," and they're leaving it open for this. And in a lot of storage environments, the default is it's open to the world, if you set it that way. And so in this case, that's kind of what they did. They stored it out there, not thinking that other people would use it. And what could happen?
Oh, someone could steal it. That's my thoughts.
Somebody
Well,
could.
it's like I make sure I'm getting this right. So it's like an office building.
Yep.
It's saying they're sharing a server,
Right.
but it's that they're going to send all that data to a single server in that building, trusting that no one else has access to that.
Let me put it this way. So put it in kind of less technical terms.
Okay.
I've got an office.
Okay.
I've got a store, and I've got an office that I'm storing a bunch of stuff in.
Okay.
So the only people that know that I'm storing stuff in there are me and Bob and Sally.
Okay.
Would I lock it? Why would I need to lock it? Bob and Sally are the only ones that know that it's there, and they're authorized to get to it. Why would I need to lock it?
Because there's just any random passerby can just knock on the door, see if it's open.
Absolutely, that's the issue. Any random passerby can walk by and open the door and get in. In this case, they may not even need to open the door.
Why is the door there?
There isn't a door. So, in the internet, it has the same concept. You've stored stuff there, but anybody walking by on the internet, well, there's an interesting thought. So,
Give it 50 years.
yeah. When we get to virtual reality, that's what they will be doing. They'll
Yes.
be walking by. And if that's the case, people will actually probably think about securing it because they'll see a door.
When we get to virtual reality?
Pardon me?
When we get to virtual reality?
Yeah, good point. We're already there. So when we actually start doing this stuff, then there's, and it really does go to how we think about things. Because we're used to thinking of computer files as something that only I have access to. When I store it out on the internet, anybody can have access to it if you haven't put a password on there. So, and that's the case. In this situation, those documents were stored and there wasn't any password on it. Now, what's the worst thing that could happen after that? Assuming,
Well, it gets used.
it gets used. Now, in this case, the security guy found it on the 10th of January, reported it, and on the 15th of January, which is actually pretty damn fast, they were
5
able
days.
to...
That's
5
not
days.
fast.
Well, it's actually in the security environment, it's pretty fast because it generally takes like 90 days. So there's the scary part, but it can take a lot
We
of
gotta get
time.
authorization for things.
Yeah.
Red tape. Love it.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, why do we think systems aren't patched? Because I don't want to put the patch in because it may blow something else up. And so patch cycles are at 90 days, but that's a whole other topic. So in this situation, though, 5 days was actually a very quick response. The guy reported it, he noticed that it was from a major financial institution, reported it to that financial institution. The financial institution figured out where that data was at and got it closed down in 5 days. That was very, very fast.
Nice.
So it was protected. Now, it's a day later after all this has happened.
Uh-oh.
What would you expect to happen after that?
Somebody get fired.
We're gonna know which red flags are gonna occur.
Yep, all those things should occur. What do you think didn't occur?
No one got fired. No one got in trouble.
And then it get locked back up.
No, it got locked back up. But go down that path. What else could have happened?
It got secured improperly.
Well, a
Keep
copy,
going.
a copy could have been made and stored somewhere you can't get to it.
Or a copy could have existed that nobody thought about. So what appears to have happened the next day, after it got cleaned up, another, Zach Whitaker, noted in his article, massive mortgage loan and data leak gets worse as the original documents are also exposed.
Ah, the internet. You put it out there once, it's never
Where
going
else?
away.
Well, yes, not only is it not going away, but in this case, how many other places is it stored?
Google.
Sorry.
That's a number. Google's a number.
Google's a number.
And parents will describe, you know, the number of places they can be at that point.
Yeah, okay. And you're right. The problem is, and this is one of the things we get to all the time. How do you know you got to it all? You probably can't. But maybe you ought to at least think about looking.
You probably should try.
Yeah, so if you know that it's been stored insecurely once, it's probably stored insecurely elsewhere. And in this case, they didn't go back and clean up the rest of it. So not only did they have the initial issue of which they really looked like idiots, then we found a second one, and all they did was reinforce the idiocy. The next point of this is to think about is, in this case, this was a data breach. We were concerned about data that could have gotten leaked out because it was stored insecurely. And somebody could have reached in and read it. But there's some other things that could have occurred.
So what are those other things?
Well, I mean, one, absolutely you could get locked out of it. I mean, somebody could get into it and they could delete it. They could secure the file potentially, but let's just say, because that might require access. Well, in this case, probably if you left it open, it's probably got admin rights anyway. So not only could they do it, but could they modify the data? would you know if they modified the data?
Probably not.
What if they stored something on there that you might be really embarrassed about? Because if it's there to be read and it's open to be written on, what if you could just use it to write on?
Oh, like underlying code?
Yeah, underlying code, or
A good pickpocket can do more than just take something out of your pocket. They can put something in there you don't want.
and
Yeah.
that's actually the concern here. Is if you got data that's unsecured, somebody can actually put something into your data files that you didn't want. They could actually screw up your numbers in some situations, or worse yet, if it's a data file, bad guys are known to use those as command and control, so they would actually use your server to take data that they've collected from others and then collect it into their site and send it on. Or worse yet, what if there's some contraband images, either copywritten images or illicit pornography or some other things that get stored on your insecure device storage that you didn't know about and just being used to pass that information around. So now what's ended up happening is you've become the bad guy. You didn't mean to be, but the reality is in some cases simply having that data on your systems makes you the bad guy and are at fault. So
Well,
it's
the purpose might even be just a reputational attack.
Oh, absolutely right. Because I could actually ruin a company by having that information. Back in the days of peer-to-peer networks, where people were exchanging things with LimeWire and such, and they were putting images in. So in that situation, there were a number of cases where people were exchanging files that they thought were fine, and they were storing it out there. And somebody put illicit pornography that was, you were actually illegal to even have it, kiddie porn, that kind of stuff. That showed up on their devices. Multiple people, had their entire careers, family lives ruined because they were found guilty of having that. They may not have put it out there, we'll never know for sure, but simply having it there can ruin a person's reputation. And if you have something show up on your company storage, it'll ruin your company's reputation.
Oh, great. Now I'm never going to grab anything off there.
No.
Okay. I'll see you in the woods.
So the issue isn't really, so let's talk about it. The issue isn't that we go away and hide in the sand, because we can't. The internet's here, we have to use it, but we need to secure it. In the last situation we were talking about where it was after, where the original documents were found, in this case, it wasn't on the Elasticsearch, where there wasn't unsecured. It was actually on an AWS server, which by default, an AWS cloud server is set up to be restricted access. So somebody had to intentionally turn that off.
So who turned off the switch of the security?
Probably the same guys that set it up on the other system, because, in all honesty, easy access is what we're about. We as a culture are trained to open doors and answer questions. We want to make things easy
And quick.
and quick. And secure is, in all honesty, a very strong third or fourth or fifth point in the process. So what we want to do as a part of this conversation is keep talking about these things, whether it be this kind of a situation or whether it be a regular business process where somebody loans $1.5 million and doesn't actually check to see whether or not there was any reason to give them that money.
Can I borrow your wallet?
Not a chance.
Okay.
You did that too much as a kid and I never got the money back. So,
Bank.
now that I think about it, you still do that and I never get the money back.
The Bank of Dad.
So our goal here is to provide that kind of a conversation and talk about these things. It's about training people and making them laugh. Talk to you later, folks.
Happy Trails Tale.
Take care.